Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40K Gene Stealer Cult video. So before we get into today's video, I just want to say a big thank you to Haterous Monarch, I hope I am pronouncing that correctly, for sending in these really cool pictures of his growing cult. I really like the red and purple scheme, I think it goes together really well. And I like the neophytes that you've gone for. I personally prefer the mining suit ones, but those ones that you've got painted up in that colour scheme with those Gene Stealer Cult bits heads look really good. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want to send in to me for me to use my videos, please post them on my Facebook page. There'll be a link down in the description below. And if they look cool, then I will use them in my videos. So without further ado, let's take a look at today's topic, which is going to be my current Gene Stealer Cult list, which I've won the last 3 games with. And it's taken me a long time to get to this point with this list, and I think it is really powerful. Now, the last 3 games that I've played with it have been against competitive armies. We're not talking tournament winning, but we are talking. Well, one of them was very competitive. One of them, and the other 2 were solid, not rubbish bullshit list being wielded by experienced players. Now, for a Gene Stealer Cult army to be able to say that is impressive, but it has taken me a long time to get to this point, and winning with Cult at all is always difficult. So the list is in essence split down to 3 different parts. I have my Horde aspect, I have my rapid assault section, and I have my ambushers. Now in my Horde section I have 4 squads of neophytes, and I literally just cram every neophyte model that I currently have. I've got a squad of 20, and then I've got 3 squads of about 12-13 guys. Okay, and in that that's just all the neophytes that I own. Now, in the squad of 20 neophytes, I have I've got shotguns and flamers, and in my other 2 units, I've got 2 units with just autoguns and grenade launchers, and 1 unit with a couple of seismic cannons in. Honestly, the weapons here aren't that important. Not that important at all. If you want to have them all with autoguns and a couple of grenade launchers, that's absolutely fine. But the key is you have to have just big blob of cultists. Now, the reason I have that shotgun blob is it gives me a little bit of flexibility, because if I want to, I could ambush those. If I'm coming across an ambush that's got a big screen that I need to remove, I could ambush those 20 neophytes instead and use them to remove the screen. So that's why I had the 20 with shotguns. Gives me that bit of flexibility. But the last 3 games that I've won with this list, each in 2 of them I had the neophytes with shotguns running on the ground. Okay. Now, in that blob of sort of 60-ish cultists, I have a patriarch and I have an acolyte icon ward. The reason I have this is the patriarch gives everyone fearless, but also gives me a psychic power. Gives me a little bit of psychic defense. I also have the acolyte icon ward there as well, because he gives everyone a 6-up feel no pain. And if for some reason I lose my patriarch, then the acolyte icon ward gives everyone the ability to reroll leadership tests, and the leadership 8 basic. So it gives me a little bit of a backup option when it comes to my my leadership. And the acolyte icon ward has the icon of the cult ascendant, which gives everyone around him +1 strength. Now the neophytes, they're not really that bothered about that. They're a delivery system for this guy, and we'll talk about him in a little bit later. Now, my rapid assault section has evolved quite a lot. It used to be 15 aberrants in 3 5-man squads, and each one of those was in a Goliath rock grinder. That's now changed a little bit. I now have the 1 rock grinder, and in there I just have 5 acolytes with a rock saw and a rock drill. Now that the rock drills have come down in points. And then I have 2 Goliath trucks. Now, one of those Goliath trucks, I have 9 aberrants and an abominant. And the other one, I have another 10 acolytes with 2 drills and 2 saws. Now, if you want, I like to use the trucks because I'm going for a pure Genestealer Cult model army. If you wanted to use chimeras for the 2 trucks, you could do. But what I found is very important is to have that Goliath rock grinder. And the reason that's important, and the reason I don't put my aberrants in there anymore, is because what I noticed was that my opponents would be very... Well, one, that 5 aberrants was never quite enough to do the damage I needed it to do, first off. Secondly, even split up into groups of 5 meant that it wouldn't always hit the same place. I'd be tempted to spread them out. Having them in the one squad of 10 lets me concentrate their damage. That's why I did that. I found that the normal rock grinder, having 3 rock grinders, they were intimidating, but they rarely did any damage. And what I realised was the greatest strength of the rock grinder was its intimidation factor. That people looked at it and went, holy shit, I bet that thing's really nasty in combat. And when they ask you, is that thing good in combat? Your answer is, yeah, it's pretty good. Obviously, if they ask you for the full detail of its weapon stats, you tell them. And even when you do tell them and you say, oh, it only hits on 5s, but it's strength 8, AP minus 2, D3 damage, and it can have 6 attacks plus D3 on the charge, people's eyes go, oh shit, that needs dealing with. So what I realised is the Goliath Rock Grinder is the equivalent for the Genestealer cults of a Distraction Carnifex. It looks big, it looks nasty. If you leave it alone, it's going to fuck you up a little bit. So you kind of feel like you have to deal with it. And that's why in there, I only have the 5 normal acolytes. I put those in there because they also add to the threat value. They're a cheap little squad. People can see they've got a couple of mining weapons. They know instinctively that mining weapons are a bit difficult, so they don't want that. That just helps add to that unit's threat bubble. Or threat image, I should say. Now, the final part of the list is my ambushers. Now, I should say I also have a Magus, sorry. Then the Magus goes in the Rock Grinder. He just goes in there for flexibility. Sometimes I put him in there because he has the psychic power, mass hypnosis, and that means he's able to stop the enemy's overwatch and he can help my rapid assault units get into power. Sometimes if I'm not... When he's done with that, he only really has to get that power off once or twice a game. The rest of the time, what I'll actually do is I'll have him disembarked in amongst the blob of neophytes, and that means that when people try and smite my neophytes, that he helps them deny, because he has a power, he has an aura buff, which every Genestealer Cult unit within 6 inches of him, if they are targeted by a psychic power, they get the attempt to deny it, which is really good. Even though I've only got 2 psychics on the board, I have a lot of denying capability, which is nice. He's also a source of smite. Smite's a solid power. Now, the final part of the list is my ambushers. Now, without fail, every single time... Oh, I should say that obviously there's the Abominant with the 9 aberrants, they all go in the same truck. The Abominant's good, he helps the aberrants have... The aberrants themselves, I've got 2 power hammers, a hypermorph with hypermorph tail and large improvised weapon, and then the rest of them have power picks and rending claws. The reason I have that is the power hammers only get 2 attacks each and they're -1 to hit, so they're expensive and they don't do all that much damage, but sometimes you just need a big fuck off hammer. And the reason why the rest are power picks is because aberrants only have 2 attacks base, but for every attack that you do with a power pick, you get to do a free attack with a rending claw. So each power pick aberrant actually gets 4 attacks, 2 with the pick, 2 with the rending claw, which actually makes them quite decent with their basic strength 5. Actually makes them quite good anti-everything models. The power hammer guys are obviously good at smashing the shit out of tanks. Strength 10, AP minus 3, flat 3 damage. Thunder hammers, basically. But the aberrants, the power pick aberrants are take all comers. They can take on big things. They can take through weight of attacks. They can smash the crap out of little things. They're really good. And the abominant means that every time they get a 6, it counts as 2 hits rather than 1. Exploding 6s to hit, which is really good. And the abominant itself, real tough nut to crack. I like to, now that we've got the anointed throng, I give him the relic sledgehammer. I pay a command point for that because it's really, that relic sledgehammer is really nice. Now, what was I going to say? Now, so moving on. So what you can see there is I have the abominant, the aberrants and the abominant, which are designed for smashing the crap out of things. And I also have the rock grinders as a distraction. But the Goliath trucks, they drive forward, but they've also got those twin autocannons and heavy stubbers, which means they actually have a decent amount of firepower. Once they've driven forward and my units have got out, they tend to stay still and just lay down covering fire, or they charge in and eat Overwatch if they need to. Very flexible little units, those trucks. Tougher than they look as well with the 6 up feel no pain. Now the final talk about is the ambushers. Now the ambushers, they're a little bit more of a flexible part of my army. The one thing that is set in stone is I have 20 Gene Stealers ambushing with a Primus. That never changes. Trying to run Gene Stealers across the board doesn't work. They just die. They're not that tough. Toughness 4 with a 5 up Invan, it's not going to get you a long way. But ambushing them in with the Primus means that they are really, really powerful. They're really, really good at getting into position and just destroying anything. That unit has a minimum of 80 attacks each. Now, what I like to do, I'm very careful about this. This comes into my deployment. I like to ambush them, not off on their own behind enemy lines. They always ambush in to support my foot-slogging neophytes. There's 2 reasons for this. Gives the neophytes the neophytes absorb the first turn or 2 of damage, and then the Gene Stealers can just come in, just support them, and just start shredding into the enemy, and the neophytes can start capping objectives. But the second most important thing is because of that icon ward, and because of the Patriarch. The Patriarch gives them +1 to hit. The Primus gives them +1 to hit as well, so they're hitting on 2s, but the Acolyte icon ward gives them +1 strength thanks to the icon of the Cult Ascendant. Strength 5 Gene Stealers is incredible. Then my Patriarch knows the power Might from Beyond. So the Patriarch knows Might from Beyond, and the Magus knows Mass Hypnosis. So Mass Hypnosis to stop Overwatch. The Patriarch's Might from Beyond means that he gives everyone +1 strength and +1 attack if he gets the power off. Which therefore, if you put that on a unit of Gene Stealers, 20 Gene Stealers, you're looking at 100 attacks, strength 6. Which is really good. Even if you don't get Might from Beyond off, you're looking at 80 attacks, strength 5, with Rending Claws. That unit of 20 Gene Stealers will take on anything. I shit you not, it will take on anything. Now the second unit of ambushers varies, and this is where the flexibility of the list comes in. It will either be 10 acolytes with two rock drills and 2 rock saws, or it will be the 20 neophytes with shotguns, flamer and cult icon. 2 units we've already talked about. If I am likely to be facing an army which is very, very good at screening, then I will probably ambush in the neophytes to help clear away that screen, and I will put the 10 acolytes with the mining equipment in the spare Goliath truck. Because remember, the rock grinder's got 5 acolytes in. 1 truck has 9 aberrants and an abominant, but it's empty unless I want to put my 10 spare acolyte. If I don't want to ambush them, I've still got a delivery system for them. gives me flexibility. And the neophyte, or I ambush, or if my opponent isn't so good at screening, I ambush in the acolytes. They can get with the Primus. They'll come in turn 2 or turn 3, depending on what kind of targets I'm facing. And they will happily just drill through an enemy tank of some kind. Enemy super heavy, gone. And they'll happily do that. But if there's a good screen, and I don't want to waste my Gene Stealers on tearing apart a screen, then the neophytes can ambush in, and the acolytes still have the delivery system in the truck. Or if the acolytes ambush in, the neophytes with shotguns, they're perfectly happy to foot slog it up the board. It's just more meat for my patriarch to hide behind. Just more obsec bodies that I can just move all over the board. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. So there you go, guys. So the 3 games that I played, I want to go over the 3 games that I played so you understand what armies I faced. The first game I played was against Dark Angels Ravenwing. Now, like I said, it wasn't a tournament winning list, but it was very strong. It was a big unit of Black Knights and 2 units of bikes. I think there was about 20 bikes in total. Then there was Samael in his Land Speeder variant, which has got so much firepower, a Dark Shroud, and a Talon Master. And all the bikes were grouped around them. Those three key units. Dark Shroud gave them all -1 to hit in shooting. Talon Master gave them all he's basically a lieutenant. Gave them all reroll 1s to wound. And Samael gave them reroll all hits. So that's great. He also had 5 intercessors, just as he just likes them. But they're also a cheap backfield unit, and he had 2 units of scouts. They helped fill out the battalion. He then had a unit of 5 Deathwing Terminators for a bit of deep strike, distraction, and anti-tank punch. And he had 2 of the Dark Angel Flyers. I don't know what they're called, but they're the ones that have the Rift Cannon, the Bomb, and the Twin Hurricane Bolters. So 2 Flyers, lots of bikes, and some scouting and deep striking units. Now, I won that game, and it was basically what happened is my trucks, I ambushed in the neophytes, because... and the Gene Stealers, and I had my acolytes and aberrants in the trucks, and Goliath Rock Grinder. It was a maelstrom game, and basically I won because I had board control. It was very interesting. It was a very cinematic game. What happened was I got first turn, and I pushed. My opponent got first turn. Sorry, he moved forward. Did some good damage to my neophytes, but did scattered damage to my trucks. He put a lot of firepower into the rock grinder, but it was still left with like 2 wounds, and the other 2 were only slightly damaged. Then it was my turn. My Goliath moves forward as a big distraction kind of effect. So my guys get out my trucks move forward, and what happens is I charge in with my trucks, and I didn't get my units. Sorry, this game was the first one I played. I didn't get my units out of the trucks because he wasn't close enough. But I charged my trucks forward and moved all my neophytes onto different objectives and stuff. And what I was able to do was I used my trucks to tie up his bikes. Then in his turn, he was able to pull back, but his damage was a lot limited now because he'd fallen back with all his bike units. He did destroy all 3 of my trucks, but what that meant is that the units that were in those trucks came out and they were unharmed. So we had 15 acolytes with mining weapons and 10 aberrants and an abominant just sat there. But he had killed all my trucks, and he had killed most of my neophytes at this point. My turn 2 comes around, and I execute the perfect ambush. My opponent's been cocky. He's killed the trucks, but he's pushed forward and he's killed a lot of the neophytes, and he thinks he's got me on the ropes. What happens is my Gene Stealers execute the perfect ambush and surround him on 2 sides. My Neophyte and Patriarch come up on the front, and my Aberrants and acolytes coming on the side, and I actually executed the perfect surround. Wiped out all his bikes, Samael, the Dark Shroud, and the Talon Master in one go. Just cut. Basically, he got cocky, thought he had the Gene Stealer cult wiped. The ambushers come in, the units rise up, surround him, cut the head off the snake, and that was game. And the Deathwing came in, but they weren't able to swing the tide of the game. And I actually ended up smiting one of his flyers to death, and using when one of his flyers went into hover mode, I was able to catch that in combat and kill it as well with some leftover units. So that was a really good game. My opponent had a strong list. My shooting was pretty useless, but I lulled him into a false sense of security, ambushed him, and took him out. Second game that I played was against Grey Knights. Now I know what a lot of you are saying. Oh, Grey Knights are terrible. Grey Knights still have a fucking codex, guys. I only have an index. Grey Knights might be bad, but Gene Stealer Cult are generally considered to be the bottom tier army because we haven't got a frigging codex. My opponent had what you could consider to be one of the better Grey Knight lists. He had 15 of the interceptors, which are the ones that can teleport. Every single guy had 2 of the swords, when they had 2 attacks each. He had 15 regular strike marines, 3 dreadnoughts with las cannon and missile launcher, Storm Raven with all the Dakar, and he also had Drago, Valordus, which is the one from the Triumvirate of Imperium, a captain, and an ancient. And this game was really interesting. First turn, he gets first turn, and all his interceptors teleport, and then Drago uses Gate of Infinity, teleport onto one flank, and they shred my neophytes. But the interesting thing is that he had to use cyber ammo, because neophytes in cover with a 6-up feel no pain was surprisingly difficult for him to shift. Now he didn't kill all of them. He killed the big 20-man blob. And in this game, I should say that the acolytes ambushed in, and the neophytes with shotguns provided extra bodies for my patriarch. And his dreads all opened fire on one of my trucks and just killed it, wiped it out. And his Storm Raven also helped shred my neophytes. So my neophytes, I lost like 40 neophytes in one turn in a truck. It's got absolutely shredded. In response, my Gene Stealers come out of ambush, and they attack all of his Marines and Drago. And my Aberrants managed to get out of the... my truck moves... My other truck, my Aberrants, moves forward, and so does my Rock Grinder. And the Rock Grinder died. My two trucks move forward, basically, and my Aberrants stay in there. My turn 2, like I said, I charge him with the Gene Stealers, wipe out all of his interceptors, and do like 3 wounds to Drago. His turn, he teleports out, and all of his strike marines come down, and the strike marines shred pretty much all the Gene Stealers and many of the remaining neophytes. I think I had like 5 Gene Stealers left. No, he does get all the Gene Stealers, because it takes the 3 Strike Marine squads with all the characters buffing them and the Storm Raven to wipe all the Gene Stealers out, and he gets my Icon Ward as well, so I'd taken serious damage. My turn 3, it must be. Yeah, turn 1 I didn't I can't have ambushed him turn 1. I must have got turn 1. Apologies, guys. I got turn 1 because I did, in his turn 1, he did move his interceptors, and then my turn 2, I ambushed with my Gene Stealers. Yeah, so I got turn 1. Sorry, guys. My turn 3, my Aberrants make contact with his Dreadnoughts, killed 2 of them. In my turn 4, I kill the last one, just spoiler alert. And my turn 3, my Acolytes come in against his Strike Marines, with the Patriarch support charge in and kill all of those. So by turn 3, he's got 1 Dreadnought, 4 characters, and a Storm Raven left. But in his response, he wipes out all my Acolytes and gets my Patriarch. So he's still got 4 characters and the Storm Raven left. Now I get his Dreadnought, but turn 5, he makes a fatal mistake. He puts his Storm Raven into ambush because he wants it to get into hover. He wants it to get rerolls, and that allows my Abominant to make a ridiculous 11-inch charge against it. My Abominant hit gets 3 6s to hit, which means that becomes 6 hits. I put the stratagem on him, so he gets to reroll 1s to wound. He wounds with all 6. He's got the Relic Sledgehammer, which at 8 for -4. The Storm Raven doesn't get any save. He does a minimum of 18 damage to that Storm Raven and kills it. Didn't even roll the damage. He did a minimum of 3 per hit, per wound that got through. That guy's an absolute beast when his exploding 6s go off. At that point, my opponent conceded because he only had 4 characters, and it was there was multiple objectives, and my Aberrants were on one objective, my Abominant was on another objective, and I had a truck, and I had a truck on another objective, my Magus on another, and a couple of neophytes hiding in a bush they were holding the final objective. So really good, but you can see how in both games my ability to have pinpoint ambushes but also assaulting forces and trucks has really worked well. Now my final game was against a tournament winning list. No doubt about it. Meta list. I thought I was going to lose when I first saw this list. Played against 3 knights, all with rapid fire battle cannon, missile launcher, heavy stubber, and Gatling cannon. Guilliman, so that they all had reroll 1s to hit. And then it was a Admech CP battalion, 2 tech priests and 15 Scutari. And I won. I beat that list. Now how I did it was I got turn 1. So I got turn 1, which made a big difference. And I just drove. Everything drove. My 3 trucks just drove forward, and I used all my auto guns and auto cannons and whatever firepower I had to kill one of his 5-man Scutari squads to get first blood. In his response, his shooting was quite unlucky, but he still shredded like the 20 shotgun neophytes and killed my rock grinder. Every single game, my rock grinder was the first vehicle to die. So he didn't do too badly. You know, he did a little. He was a little. He did scatter damage. A couple of other neophytes dead here and there. A couple of. I think he killed. Killed the acolytes that popped out the truck as well, and did a couple of wounds for another truck as well. So he killed 20 neophytes, roughly 5 acolytes and a truck in his first turn, with some other scattered damage being done. My turn 2, the acolytes came in because a squad of Scutari that I had killed had been screening one of his knights. So my squad of acolytes with mining weapons come in, and my aberrants get out of the truck, and with the Abominant, and that was it. And I had another truck. My other truck went forward as well. The truck absorbed the Overwatch. In my shooting phase, I did some scatter things. I did a couple of wounds to a knight with all my firepower, like nothing. Psychic phase, I used Mass Hypnosis on one of his knights so it couldn't fire Overwatch. And on the other knight, when I came to charging in, and I put Might from Beyond on the acolytes. Charged in the acolytes into the one that couldn't fire Overwatch. And charged my truck in first against the one that could fire Overwatch. My truck absorbed all the damage, and then the aberrants went against it. My acolytes against the first knight with the drills did something like 20 wounds to it. It was filthy. hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s with the cult icon, and just it was just filthy the amount of wounds that I did to him. I didn't kill it. I left it on. I got down to its last bracket, and against the other knight, I did kill it. My aberrance just went through it. Exploding 6s absolutely just went through it. I think I had a Primus in there against it as well. My Abominant and all my aberrants just destroyed the knight. Power hammers. I got a couple of 6s with the 4 power hammer attacks. The squad had, even if they die, they get to fight again. And they had rerolling 1s to wound. So they were wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s. The knight was only getting a 6-up save against most of the attacks, so it wasn't making a lot of saves. Just went. I think I did 8. I think I did another like 20 wounds to it with the aberrants. Primus knocked off 1 wound, and then the Abominant just fucking smashed it, killed it. My opponent tried to use a stratagem that lets it get back up on a 4+, and he failed, which was really important. In my opponent's turn 2, he falls back with one of his knights, and the other one comes steaming forward. He wipes out the acolytes. The one that was damaged goes full profile for a stratagem, Machine Spirit Resurgent. Wipes out my acolytes and wipes out my remaining trucks, and no, he doesn't. He wipes out 1 truck and leaves 1 left alive, and he kills a few more neophytes, and he kills all of the aberrants. So the aberrants died, a truck died, and a few neophytes died. In my turn 3, my Gene Stealers come in, and they bring down, between shooting and psychic powers and the Gene Stealers, I bring the 3rd knight down to just 2 wounds. Should say Bobby G was the one that went through all my aberrants, went through like a hot knife through butter. After they got shut up a bit. My Gene Stealers, so in his turn, so my turn, so he's got 1 knight which had been shot a little. He basically had 2 knights left on 2 wounds, and Gilliman and a couple of Scutari squads. I'm still on the ground as well. His knight, again, he uses one of his knights to go full profile again, and he manages to wipe out my or do, in between shooting and combat, wipe out my neophyte, wipe out my Gene Stealer squad. But I was able to. He charged Bobby G into my Patriarch, but because my Patriarch had the Warlord trait, the one that lets everyone within 6 inches heroically intervene, 20 neophytes heroically intervened against Gilliman. My Gene Stealers heroically intervened against the 2 wound knight, and a squad of 10 neophytes went in against the 2 wound knight as well. I was able to kill the knight, and the Gene Stealers actually wiped out the knight when they first came in, but he got back up with the stratagem. This time it got in my turn. In his turn it got killed because I heroically intervened with so much, and it didn't get back up. And I was able to put 5 wounds on Gilliman with the Patriarch before by interrupting, because he went with his knight first. Gilliman then shredded the Patriarch. Couldn't do anything about that, unfortunately. But the Gene Stealers. But the hybrids, over 3 turns, were able to take off his remaining wounds. Incredible. He was killing loads of them, but they were able to take off his remaining wounds. I was able to use a smite to take off a couple, and then the neophytes took off the last couple, and Gilliman didn't get back up. And when Gilliman didn't get back up, my opponent conceded, because he had a knight on 1 wound and 5 Scutari by the end of turn 5. And we rolled to see if the game continued, and it did. So there you go, guys. The key to the list was having that flexibility in my ambushers. And it's really, really good list. It's got a bit of psychic, it's got a bit of horde, it's got pinpoint ambushing, and it also has an assault force in trucks. Now, I'm sure you could make this better. I'm sure you could take chimeras instead of trucks. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But as a pure cult list, this one worked really nicely. Hope you got I'll put if I have chance, I'll put the list down in the description below. If not, the list I'll cover the list very quick. I'll cover the list now. Okay. Patriarch, Magus, Acolyte Icon Ward with Banner of the Cult Ascendant, 2 Primuses. I have this army is split down into 2 battalions. Okay, got 5 HQ choices. Oh, and I have an Abominant. 6 HQ choices, 3 in each battalion. Okay, and then have 4 units of neophytes. The first unit has 20 guys with cult icon. Sergeant has a power maul and bolt pistol, and 2 flamers. After that, I have 2 squads of 12 with grenade launchers. Sergeants have auto rifles, and a squad of 12 with seismic cannons. Sergeant has an auto rifle. And then I have 2 more troop choices because I need those so I can fill out my 2 battalions. A squad of 5 acolytes with drill and saw, and a squad of 10 acolytes with 3 drills, 3 saws. I don't have a cult icon there. Sorry, I was saying I thought I did, but I don't. So 3 drills, 3 saws. Then so that rounds out the troop choices. Then have a unit of 20 pure strain gene stealers with rending claws, and a unit of 9 aberrants. 1 aberrant hypermorph with hypermorph tail and heavy improvised weapon. 2 with power hammers, and 6 with power picks. And finally, I have 2 Goliath trucks with twin autocannon and heavy stubber, and a Goliath rock grinder with heavy stubber and clearance incinerator. Off the top of my head, that's the whole list. So there you go, guys. That's my list. Hope you guys find it useful. Please tell me what you think, and I'll see you guys next time.